180 Elevate is a social networking platform to connect, grow, and give with world class experts and influencers to dig deeper into an area of life, which is an element to uplift our perspectives and humanity. Welcome to our fall season, where we honor the themes of agents of change, leaders from different realms of life and industries that have combined their passion and purpose to define to be the change in the world they wish to see. In today's episode, we bring to you Omni Davis, the founder and CEO of Reframing, which was named as one of America's best startup employers by Forbes. Omni is a nonprofit executive who works to ensure underrepresented college students develop the skills, confidence, experiences, and networks to get strong first jobs after graduation.
Hello, Omni. Welcome to 180 Elevate. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
We are as well, to learn such amazing journeys and stories you have to share with us. So let's get right into it. Tell us a little bit more about yourself from start to finish, early education, young professional career, to this guru you are today within the nonprofit sector. And of course, we'll get into Reframe as well. We're so excited to hear about it. But tell us some things that have inspired you through your moments, and how did you get to the position of leadership you are today?
Yeah. So I grew up in low-income, hardworking neighborhoods in Chicago, and basically only knew people who were trying to get their children and themselves on the path to the American dream. And basically, I have parents who happened to buy a piece of property that sat 4 blocks away from a notorious gang headquarters in Chicago. And it now sits 7 blocks away from the Obama home. And in about a 10-year period, my older sister and myself really got to experience what it meant to be economically mobile. And not in a theoretical sense, but in a brass tacks. This is what it means when there's more money coming into a household. So in terms of our educational opportunities, our extracurricular opportunities. And so that's really what has motivated and inspired me pretty much throughout the course of my entire career, is that I have so many people in my life, whether that's cousins, whether it's people I went to church with, where it was just the luck of what my parents happened to stumble on that started to give myself and my sister these other opportunities. And then I just wanted to pay it forward and do it for other people. And so that's what got me into education. And I taught a group of incredible 6th graders. And it was actually watching them come out of college, if they had decided to go the year of Hurricane Katrina, and actually having a hard time, not because New Orleans was underwater, which was very unfortunate, but actually even whether they were in Atlanta or Houston or here in the Chicagoland area or elsewhere, they just somehow were not being able to really maximize those degrees right away. And that's what really brought me into the world of Reframing. But it's all linked to the belief that through education and opportunities in general, a young person should be able to be on the pathway to the American dream.
It definitely is true. I think one thing that can uplift humanity and the future of our world, which is children from underprivileged, impoverished communities, is literacy. It's education globally. There's so many beautiful causes around hunger relief, water, and climate change, everything. But I think in order to fully uplift humanity across the board, consistently, that literacy movement is so key. So tell us a little bit more about Reframing, since our audience doesn't know, and then we can tie it into other learnings that you have had along the way through this journey.
Absolutely. So to your point about literacy, I'm a former 6th grade English teacher, as well as a history teacher. So clearly I come in a big fan of reading and writing and all of that. And it really does tie to Reframing in the sense that I had watched this group of young people and many, many hundreds of thousands of them afterwards, because I then ran a human capital operation for Teach for America, the organization where I started teaching, where we had 50,000 young people applying to teach through Teach for America a year. We had another 30,000 people applying to our staff every year. And I was in that role for 8 of the 13 years when I was on that team. And so the data set that I had was 80,000 over the course of 8 years. So you're seeing hundreds of thousands of people over time. And you just start to say, something's not right. That this group of young people who've done everything right, everything every teacher, preacher, parent told them to do. They put their heads down, worked super hard, gotten their way through college, overcome so many barriers, is actually coming out and under earning a young person from a high income community coming out of the same college to the tune of 66 cents on the dollar, which just isn't fair. Like, I know as a woman, I want to be paid fairly. As a Black person, I want to be paid fairly. My friends who are considered from other marginalized groups want to be paid. Everybody wants to be paid fairly. And what I started to see was that that just wasn't happening for this group of young people, and that there was a solvable problem. So we partner inside of higher education with colleges and universities to run a course, former teacher, talent nerd in me, that we take students through in a really rigorous way, where we help them learn how to prepare their cover letters, their resumes, their project plans, where they actually work on a project, a capstone project that an employer has asked them a question, so that they can gain a set of skills that often young people get from their kitchen tables or from their living rooms, and also gain a network where there is a coach of a team of 5 to 8. The coaches come from the professional workforce. For many of our students, it's the first time that they are actually getting to know someone in the professional workforce who can actually be a recommender to them for interviews and jobs, and just helping to really expand that network. So that's what we do in the world of Braven. We started with 17 students 9 years ago. We're now with over 5,000 students today. In the next couple of years, we'll be over 10,000.
Wow, amazing feat. And are you thinking about making this a global strategy, or are you thinking of sticking it within the US to certain cities? Because I think the world needs more leaders like you. So how do we globalize if that is not on your radar and maybe on the future radar?
It's a great question. I had the great honor and privilege of being an Obama Fellow, which was actually a global fellowship. And so I got to know 19 other folks from around the world. And it is really interesting because going into that, I was thinking, oh, the problem that we're working on is just such a uniquely American problem. Like, this pathway to the American dream is something that's just really, something that we are trying to figure out. And I was completely flabbergasted by this challenge of youth unemployment is actually, or underemployment is actually a global problem. It really is. Mm-hmm. Now, that said, how every country decides to go after that will need to look a little bit different, because I also was very humbled by learning that everybody's economic systems, their political systems are different. And so Braven is a solution, I want to be very honest about, that is really designed around the American context. And 55% of our students actually out-earn their parents in 5 semesters, which is what it means to be on the track to the American dream. And that said, there were definitely moments with the fellow from England, the fellow from Nigeria, the fellow from the Philippines, where I was like, this seems like something that we should, over time, figure out how do we put in the right context into other places, because it is a model that seems like it can work. So there are moments where we have actually had very interesting dialogues with folks from South America and other places about Braven being global. I'm not sure where that will go over time, but I definitely do know that this is more than just a US problem.
It certainly is. And through those conversations, I'm sure you've come across a lot of challenges and a lot of proud moments. So let's cover both of those, right? You've talked about some of the challenges, high level. We know as a society what that is, or what has been coming across. And I'm so glad DEI in the workforce has gained the momentum it has, much needed. However, tell us how you navigated those challenges. So, we're aware of what's happening, but what were your key learnings in life, personally and professionally, as you navigated the challenges, and some of the tips, tricks, secret sauces that our professionals should know globally? And of course, then what are your proudest moments personally?
Yeah, for sure. So first and foremost, we shouldn't even be talking to each other right now. If you just look at the data, a Black woman starting a nonprofit here in the US context, and I know this looks different again across the world, just given racial dynamics and how countries and cultures are set up, but yet in our country and across the globe, there usually is, unfortunately, some marginalized set of people. And so basically only 4% of the philanthropy in the United States goes towards Black women-led organizations. It might even be less than that. And so what I have to say to people here and globally is, yeah, that's the facts. And then people have to come in and defy the odds. And the reason I believe that is so important is because not only because of me and Braven, but other people like me and other people who break barriers and break sound barriers. Ultimately, it makes people question what they're doing and why they're allowing such bias in models. And so what I would say my biggest challenge to begin with was that we had one donor for 2.5 years, and it took a lot of work to get others to come. But then people are reasonable and rational and started to see the impact that we were having, the outcomes that there are for our fellows and for their communities and their parents and the country, and they came along with us. So that, I would say, is a double-edged sword of how I think about the challenge that I faced. But also what I'm probably most proud of is that Braven is now a thriving organization. And when I think about meeting again people from across the globe and the Obama Fellowship and just other things that I've done, I've always been inspired by just knowing that, someone who comes from a humble beginning can figure out a way because other people start to invest in them. And sometimes other people who are very different than they are, and just say, this is a brilliant person, this is genius. We're just going to help make sure that what they're working on or what they're doing actually gets elevated. And I have a lot of optimism about that being the case here and across the globe.
So I'm hearing a couple of key learnings from that journey. One is persistence is key, not to give up. 2.5 years, one donor, and at some point you're giving up, but don't quit while ahead, all those things. It's more so persistence pays. The other thing is some of the qualities we look for in leaders, elevating themselves compared to others, are grit, right? Which has a dynamic of persistence combined with passion. So you're passionate about something, you have the right direction, the right mindset to take it the right way. Things might not go ahead your way, but have the grit, have persistence, have the passion, and that combination will take you to the stars. And you know what? If you shoot for the stars, don't land, you'll at least land on the moon, is what I would say. And the second learning I heard was positivity. And I think that's so important. I mean, because in our woke or cancel culture, which is critical for change, people have started becoming a little bit more pessimistic. They might not be seeing all the positive change in the world. And I think one of the key things to elevate yourself personally is to see the glass half full. You sound like a positive person, sounds like the positivity carried you a long way. Let go of what doesn't serve you, forgive, and then move on, right? And so it sounds like those were kind of the key learnings around the journey.
They really are. I mean, on the positivity front, when I was born at 6 months old, my biological father was diagnosed with a terminal form of cancer that basically made him leave this earth when I was 2.5 years old. My first living memory is actually being held up to his casket. And I always say to people, I could have either walked away from that, clearly as a very young child, glass half empty or glass half full. Thankfully, I walked out glass half full and just saying, oh, every day is a blessing. Like I should just live in that way. And I would say, I think positivity actually attracts people, even people who are very different than you, or even people who might disagree than you. And I do think that is one of the things that I learned over time is, yes, there was the perseverance, but then the other P, the positivity, that then also started to attract people who just said, yeah, you know what? Okay, maybe we should be making more investments in Black women-led organizations, nonprofit organizations, not just for meeting me, but other people, because I do think ultimately people want to see things succeed, and people, I think their core want to see us all live in a great world.
Yes, certainly. I mean, I'm going through a personal journey myself of actually fundraising my startup separately. And whether it's marginalized race, culture, women within the VC venture capitalist sector, I've found, believe it or not, is 2 to 3% of women founders are getting funded, right? And so your journey, my journey, a founder's journey, alike. It's truly how we perceive it and how we continue growing from it, and learning from it. And so with that said, what would you like to leave our audience with as your last few keywords on this platform? And if there was a quote on a billboard that had your name on it, what would that quote say?
Yeah, I mean, basically what I would leave people with, and it's the quote from my grandmother, who actually cared for me quite a bit when my dad was ill, is make your stumbling blocks your stepping stones. Like, just always know that when a door closes, there's some window that opens, or there's some reason that that door should have closed and you just can't tell it in the moment. And that's what I would say I feel like I've seen with myself in my own life, in my own journey, but also our fellows as they are like overcoming lots of barriers along the way, but sometimes they like trip and stumble on one, is that you just have to figure out how to keep going and make those stumbling blocks your stepping stones.
Excellent. And if our audience or someone from our audience would like to sponsor you or be a donor, and if some of the young professionals are looking to get involved, is there a place to go?
Yes, so if you go to bebraven.org, so it's BE, then BRAVEN.org, you can find me, you can find my team. If you want to volunteer, if you want to be a donor, if you just want to talk to me as you're trying to launch your own thing, I'm very, very open, because I always know that it was honestly the openness of other people that got me to where I am today, with their time and with their other resources. So however I can be helpful to the broader community, I'd like to be.
Thank you, Omni, for a great discussion today and for taking us through the journey. Honored to have you on our show, and have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Hello, and welcome to today's masterclass, Find Freedom from Imposter Syndrome. I'm Melody Wilding. I'm an executive coach, licensed social worker, and human behavior professor. And my zone of genius is helping smart, sensitive professionals get out of their own way and stop doubting themselves so that they can reach their full potential at work. All of the techniques and tools we're talking about today come from my book, Trust Yourself, Stop Overthinking and Channel Your Emotions for Success at Work. You can grab a free chapter at melodywilding.com/chapter. So I want to start out by telling you the story of one of my clients, who I'll call Maria. And the thought of going to work made her tense. It wasn't because she wasn't any good at her job. She was actually very good at it. She was a manager at a Fortune 500 company and had recently been promoted. Instead of feeling like that was an accomplishment and something to celebrate, she felt immense pressure. Despite the fact that she had multiple degrees, she was obviously very intelligent. Maria felt that any day her boss was going to come over to her desk, fire her, say to pack up her stuff, because they had found out that she wasn't equipped to do her role. Maria's story is just one example of what it's like to live with imposter syndrome, a nagging feeling of self-doubt and unworthiness that persists despite obvious accomplishments. So you may doubt your abilities and live in fear of being exposed as a fraud. You may not feel like you're worthy of the success you have, and you may feel like you can't replicate that success in the future. You may feel like everyone around you has it all together more than you do. So do you ever secretly worry that others are going to find out you're not as bright and capable as you make yourself out to be? Do you hate making mistakes, being less than fully prepared, and not doing things perfectly? Do you get crushed by even constructive criticism and take it as a sign that, well, that confirms I really don't know what I'm doing? If any of this is sounding familiar, then I want to reassure you that you are not alone. Imposter syndrome is incredibly common. Up to 70% of people struggle with it at some point in their career, and up to 50% of women say they struggle with it weekly. It is entirely possible to create confidence in your abilities And I know this because for 10 years, I have been coaching top performers at some of the world's biggest companies. My clients are individual contributors, leaders at their organizations. But regardless of their industry, their rank, their title, they all have one very important thing in common. And that is they are what I call sensitive strivers. A sensitive striver is someone who is both high achieving and highly sensitive. So they think and feel everything more deeply than most people. Sensitive strivers are highly attuned to their own emotions and those of others around them. They are deeply caring. They give their 100% to everything they do, but they have an inner world on overdrive. And because they process things more deeply than others, they're more susceptible to stress, emotional overwhelm, and overthinking. Being a sensitive striver is a tremendous strength. Your empathy, your self-awareness, combined with that strong drive to achieve, makes you a powerhouse performer. But if these qualities are left unchecked or they're not managed in the right ways, they can turn into imposter syndrome. Empathy becomes being overly concerned with what other people think. Self-awareness becomes overthinking and second-guessing yourself. Ambition devolves into overworking to prove yourself. So the key here is learning to channel your qualities in a way that serves you rather than sabotages you. So let's get into our 3 steps for finding freedom from imposter syndrome. And for the purposes of this short presentation today, I want to give you some simple processes, some simple tools to follow and actionable steps that you can take today to get yourself on the path to greater confidence, calm, and ease at work. So our 3 steps to find freedom from imposter syndrome are reframe it, name it, and claim it. Reframe it involves reframing unhelpful thoughts. Name it, naming your achievements. And claiming your power and your seat at the table. So let's start with step number 1, which is reframe it. Imposter syndrome tends to show up as automatic unhelpful thoughts. So it's easiest to think about this as a little bit like a broken record. It's like we have the same unhelpful thoughts that go on in a groove again and again, saying you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you'll be exposed. The good news is that with a little bit of practice, you can change your thoughts for the better. And that's where reframing comes in. Reframing helps you challenge, helps you question whether the assumptions and the stories you're telling yourself are true, and helps you see new possibilities and solutions instead of hitting mental dead ends. So for example, instead of thinking, if I speak up, everyone will laugh at me, you can reframe that to think, well, this is an opportunity to use my voice and make an impact. Or I made a mistake and everything is ruined, can become, I learned a valuable lesson and now I can do better next time. I should know more by now, can become, I'm not the best yet, but look how far I've come in just 1 year. So I want you to notice how the key to sidestepping these thoughts isn't changing from negative to positive with brute force. It's about gently encouraging yourself to be more open, fair, balanced, curious, rather than so critical and judgmental. So here are just a few other reframing questions to practice. So what would you tell a friend? What guidance would you give your closest colleague, for example? What would you think if you knew for sure that everything was going to work out? If you were your most confident self today, how would you be approaching this situation? How would you be thinking about it? One other quick tip for reframing, and this is my favorite, which is to personify your inner critic. Give it a name. This takes advantage of a technique called psychological distancing. I had one client who named their inner critic Darth Vader, and they got a Darth Vader Lego figure and placed it on their desk. And every time their inner critic would come up, they would say, "Not today, Darth." And so if your inner critic had a name, what would it be? You may make it something lighthearted, a silly name, a character from a movie or a book. But doing so, creating this psychological distance almost instantly puts your inner critic in perspective, makes you realize it's not as big or scary as it may seem in your head, and helps take away some of its power. Okay, step 2 is name it. Imposter syndrome makes it hard to recognize and own your accomplishments, but it's essential you do so for your own advancement and well-being. But if you're like many of the clients that I work with, and you are the first one to look past everything good that you do, all of your achievements. So to start changing that trend, what I want you to do is a DIY 360. You may be familiar with the concept of doing a 360 from your employment. Basically, what I want you to do is identify 3 to 6 people in your life who know you in a professional capacity. Could be current or past coworkers, managers, or other colleagues that have known you in a professional sense. And I want you to send them this email. I want you to say, "Hi, Naeem. I'm attending a personal development event, and I have a quick assignment I would like your help with. If you have 2 minutes today, I would love if you could please reply with your answers to the following questions. Number 1, what do you think my top 3 skills are? What do you think are my 3 most valuable skills? And what one strength sets me apart?" A sentence or 2 per question would be great. Thank you in advance, and your name. It's very scary to do this, I know, but trust me when I say that anyone and everyone I have talked to and who has done this exercise has been so afraid to do it at first, but comes back to me and says, "This is one of the best things I've done in my career," because the feedback you will get will help you see yourself in a new light. I'm willing to bet that the very things you disregard in yourself, because they come so easily to you, are the strengths that other people see and appreciate in you the most. So this will give you language to be able to articulate it. It will give you confidence in the fact that those attributes, those qualities and skills are valuable. So when you get this feedback back, take a moment to reflect on what themes do you notice? What surprised you the most? And a quick tip here is to create a brag file. I have almost all of my clients do this, which is to create a place where you are documenting on a regular basis your wins, milestones, and other achievements. So not only is this very helpful come review time, come time to update your resume, fundamentally what it does is start to rewire that negativity bias that comes with imposter syndrome, where we only pay attention to where we are not measuring up. Creating your brag file starts to draw your attention to what are you good at and starting to celebrate your successes. Okay, and last we have step number 3, which is claim it. So imposter syndrome causes us to push away positive feedback. We may minimize it and say, "Oh, it was nothing. I just threw that together," or spend 5 minutes explaining why something isn't as good as someone made it out to be. We diminish ourselves. So claiming it is about claiming your power, no longer permission seeking or being overly dependent on the approval of other people, other people's validation to tell you that you're good enough. I want to give you a few things you can stop doing to start claiming your confidence today. So first is to stop over apologizing. So are you the person who apologizes for everything, even when it's not your fault? Sorry to bother you, right? Sorry for taking up your time today. Saying sorry when it's not necessary is sometimes a subconscious way to get reassurance that you are okay. You're allowed to exist. You're allowed to be here, right? When you really say, "I'm sorry," are you really hoping for someone to say, "Oh, no, you're good," or "That the presentation was great"? So today I want you to start switching "I'm sorry" for "thank you." So, "Sorry, I'm late on getting this to you. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for waiting for me. Sorry for a typo. Sorry, I made a mistake there. Thank you for catching that. I'll make that change right now." Okay, next is to stop outsourcing your decision making. As soon as you have to make a decision, do you automatically go to everyone else around you? If you do this type of polling, you are teaching yourself that other people's opinions are more important than your own. You're essentially saying, I don't trust myself, so can you make a decision for me, right? So outsourcing your decisions, you're proving to yourself that your judgments aren't valuable. So instead, I want you to start asking yourself, what would I do if other people's judgment didn't matter? Or what would I regret not doing? And then last is to stop qualifying your contributions. So prefacing everything with, I'm not sure if this is a good idea, or I'm not an expert, points to an underlying lack of confidence. So the solution here is simple. Work on simply cutting those phrases out. State your point of view, state your opinion without hedging or qualifying, and watch your confidence grow. One last quick tip here is claiming praise instead of pushing away praise, saying, oh, it was nothing, it was a team effort. Allow yourself to accept it. Allow yourself to take it in and internalize it. This may sound simple, but it is really more difficult than you think. So the next time someone gives you a compliment, I want you to practice saying, thank you, I'm so glad you noticed. Or thank you, I really appreciate that. That's all. No more over-explaining. And you can take this a step further by asking the person a question to get more information. For example, thanks for your feedback on that. What did you enjoy most about the presentation? Okay, so those are 3 steps to finding freedom from imposter syndrome. And again, they are reframe it, reframe negative thoughts, name it, name your achievements, and claim it, claim your power. So if you enjoyed this presentation today, this is just a small taste of what is inside. Trust yourself, stop overthinking, and channel your emotions for success at work. Remember, you can download your free chapter now by going to my website, melodywilding.com/chapter. I can't wait to connect with you further. And thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for joining us today and elevating yourself. Charity should begin at home, but should not stay there. At 180 Elevate, it is our honor to support local and global philanthropies, which make an impact on the lives of our beautiful children and the world in of itself.
What would this world look like if we all felt cared for? Let's co-create that new paradigm. If you would like to consider joining our philanthropic mission, please consider donating at 180elevate.com. And next is just a glimpse into one of the many philanthropies our organization supports.
My dad once came home and I was a junior in high school. He was breaking down concrete at one of his clients' homes. And he walked up to me and he's like, look at my hands. Look how dry my hands are. And I wondered, I'm like, why are you showing me your hands, Dad? And he looked up at me and he said, I work with my hands so that you can work with your mind.
Para mis hijos, pues yo quiero lo mejor. Que hagan una carrera en su vida para que tengan lo que ellos anhelen tener en un futuro. Como ahorita mi hija Cristal, ella quiere trabajar para comprar una casa. Para mí ese es el sueño americano que quiero lograr.
If you met freshman Crystal, you would probably think, I'm like, who is this girl? My idea then was that, I'm gonna go to school, and then once I graduate, jobs are just gonna fly at me. I had one of my good friends sit me down and say, you need to start networking like crazy right now. It was around that time that I started noticing my friends doing all these great internships. I had never heard of that before, so I panicked.
So much of the focus for first-gen students is around getting your college degree. It can be really hard to figure out where to go, what to do. Having somebody to talk to about that who can empathize and who's been through it, I think is really helpful.
I went online and I Googled SJSU internship help. One of the first things that popped up was Raven.
Raven is a career accelerator. It's basically making sure that when you get out of college that you are able to land a really great first job. I was a leadership coach, so I met with my fellows once a week about the work that was going on. There's so many opportunities for them to grow.
My focus was more on academics, but once I started going through the program, I realized there's other things that I also need to dedicate my focus to. There were also a lot of first-generation students like myself, so I felt that connection right away. I was like, oh, cool, like, there's people just like me.
As a first-generation college student, Raven introduced me to so many people that led me to my current career path. I am gonna be starting at Adobe in mid-July. When I was doing my Adobe interview, they actually told me, like, you know what, I see that you structure your answers in a certain format, and I appreciate that. So I was like, wow, thank you, Raven.
I'm always very proud of all my friends when they secure a strong job, such as the one that Jamila secured, and I want to see them succeed. So when she got that job and I hadn't yet, honestly, I was a little stressed out.
I have this thing where I feel guilt even over my successes because since she's my best friend, I want her to have the same opportunities that I do, and I know she's capable of that.
I've learned a lot from Raven, but one of the things that really stood out to me was every no is a step closer to yes. I was interviewing for Box. I got this amazing call yesterday, and she's like, oh, Crystal, I have some news for you. We want you to be part of our team. So yeah, I got a job.
Mañana que yo mire a Cristal caminar ahí, me voy a sentir muy orgullosa de ella. Se ha esforzado mucho, mucho para lograr llegar hasta donde está.
I know Crystal really recognizes that she's gotten a lot. I hope that she can see that she has so much to offer other people. So not just giving back for the sake of giving back, but also as an affirmation that you made it.
The network is growing. The students that are impacted by the program continue to grow, and it attracts a lot of passionate, smart, and strong individuals. I want to make myself proud, but I also have to make my parents proud. Had they not come here, I would definitely not be in the position that I am now.